Coalesce podcast. My name's Grant.
And I'm Meg.
And we are going to dive into some Google Auth today. And we want to use the new template and show you how to get all the Google stuff set up, because it can be a little bit daunting at times, although it turns out to actually be pretty straightforward depending on what you want to do. So Meg, let's dive right in, and let's go ahead and we're on the getting started screen in our GitHub documentation. So the Coalesce docs, you would literally just go to the main page, hit the getting started thing on the left-hand side or in the middle, and now we're going to check some stuff. So first we're going to check is, well, we get kind of the standard stuff. We're going to just choose the sign in with Google. I think that's really the only thing we're going to need for this particular one. And so, we're not building on our trivia app right now, because if we build this into our trivia app, we'd have to like put the keys in somewhere and then it wouldn't work for you. So that's why we're not doing this. But you can, if you wanted to add this to your app, I would generate an app, and then I would go ahead and generate it without Google and then with Google, and it will show you all of the things that you need to add, and then just diff it. Yeah, it's way easy to do that. And that's really cool about using this kind of template way to do it. You can see what the differences are. So, okay, is that all we need?
It is. And so this is really just pretty much what the old template was, which is what we started with when we started this podcast, plus a couple of other things like audit logs and user profile pictures and the dark mode toggle. That's coming out of the box for you. We kind of had some past episodes on how to do that. So if you're on an older version, you could look at our past episodes, or you just did these changes.
Right.
But yeah, what we used to have is when you would make a template, you would just get the dummy auth, which you would still get if you just uncheck that. But if you check either one of these, you should get actual auth set up, and then you just have to make sure you hook it up to whatever service you've chosen, either Google or Microsoft.
Fantastic. And if you look out to the right of that, there's a little thing that says read more. And if you open that link in a new window, that's actually going to show you how to get this set up. And so let's go ahead, generate the template app. Let's get it set up. And then we're going to show you where to kind of put some stuff in and how you have to actually configure this.
Yeah. And something cool too is, and you can actually update, because it used to be you'd have to kind of copy this command and edit it. But you can now put a little name in here. So I'm just going to say Google Auth example. That'll be our project name. So then we can copy all that. You can come over here. You can ignore that. I tried to make it beforehand, and then I realized I could just
do it from right here. Paste all the stuff in.
That just goes through. Okay. And we should see. I can find it in my list of millions.
So it builds up the template. We're going to do an npm install here to bring all the packages on board. We still have a few steps that we have to do. So we'll have to be, just watch a couple of things as we get started. So really, once you get this done, you always have 2 steps before you can run your app, no matter what. And those are, we're going to have to go in and build a migration. Again, if you have any kind of database stuff going on, which you really need to, if that's what Coalesce is about. And then we're going to have to run Coalesce actually on the client-side app or on the website app. So, actually, this did it.
Did that do?
It did. It did the things. So it's the Coalesce part is good. So
yes, we just need to run that.
Yeah. So it did run the .NET Coalesce there.
So let's go do that.
Let's go open that up. Okay, you can just, if you want to just add a migration from here, that's cool too.
Yeah, just otherwise we will forget by the time we get to it.
I know, right? Exactly.
And then we'll be like, what's wrong?
And then we can just open this in Visual Studio so we can kind of get a look at what's going on.
That should be right here. Okay, so
we should update our tools at some point.
Yeah,
just a couple of versions, but it's not a big deal.
Not that much.
No.
It's minor. Okay. That right now. All right, so it looks pretty similar to just typical Coalesce, but the difference is going to be here in the program. Well, actually,
it's in the auth section up there, right?
I mean, it is in the program.cs.
And it just calls out
links to these guys.
So you won't actually find all the auth stuff in here. You're going to find it up in this auth section.
Yeah.
I just made it a little easier to kind of isolate that stuff. And here you see the Google stuff.
Yep. So this is setting up all your config, and then this handles the sign in. So we can kind of go through this maybe once we hook stuff up.
Yeah, and so the way this fundamentally works is you have to basically have an app ID and then a secret. Those are the 2 things we have to have. And we've made a spot for those in your app settings. Now, unfortunately, this is not where you want to put them. We're going to put them here. And by the way, we're going to put the keys in here and you're going to see them, but we're going to erase them right away. So don't think like, hey, we've just exposed everything. So anyway, you should not put them here. This is actually not a good spot for them. You should put them as a secret somewhere, and either inside your app service, as if you're deploying to an app service in the storage there, that's a decent place to put them. A better place is to use a key vault, and then just use the key vault to access those things. And you log in, you would do an AZ login from your command line to development. And that way, all of your stuff is just in one spot. You don't have to ever have those things. And you really don't want those ever checked into source control, because it's just, if somehow if you're using GitHub and somehow it gets made public, then all of a sudden you're having to roll your keys. And if you don't notice, you could actually have a more significant security issue on your hands.
Yeah, and a great place to put them, like when you just first start a project, you don't want to have to do the whole setting up key vault and all that. It's like that's, maybe you want to get Auth working and then you want to go set up key vault. You can put them over here if you right click and go to manage user secrets. You can pop them into this secrets.json. These won't be checked in the source control. And they override these guys here.
Right. So it's just like effectively environment variables. So your two options are, you either use local secrets and you then put them in your app service as an environment variable, or you use a key vault and use AZ login in your development environment.
Yeah. As soon as you start deploying this and you're going to start sharing it between multiple devs, the key vault is probably the right answer.
Right. And then you can have a separate key vault for your production. So then you can keep the keys separate. So if you're using separate keys. Okay, great. So let's go now, and we have to figure out this client ID and the client secret. So we have to go to Google in order to get this. So let's go back to this screen here. And if you just scroll down a little bit, there's that link right there that says the Google API and services. So go in here, and this is a little bit of a process we have to work through. So what we've done is we've actually created a project for Meg. You can create a project right there. If you want to create a new one, this is where you do it. But we have one right now. We'll just go ahead and use that. And we're going to, on the left-hand side, click on credentials. And that's going to take us and show us our auth keys. And we don't have any right now, but we're going to click create credentials at the top. And we're going to want an OAuth client ID, which is exactly what we're looking for in the config file. Now, what's interesting here is you actually have to configure what they call a consent screen before you can do this. And this is the screen that pops up and says, hey, do you want to share your login information with whoever the provider is? And so we'll go ahead and configure our consent screen. Now, what we have to actually do is we have to start our app so that we can see what our URL is. And so we'll need that in just a second. But for right now, let's explain what the difference between internal and external are. So internal means that if I have an organization, people in my organization can log in, right? So I can get in and out of that. So if I just want to have logins inside my organization, it's pretty easy. I don't really need to do a lot because it's just internal. Now, you probably want, well, again, you may or may not, but external means that anybody with a Google account can log in. So this is maybe for more public applications, the more classic example. So let's go ahead and actually choose external. It's the harder of the two choices, but let's show you what that looks like.
Another key thing here too is this little info. Once you can add people to it, but it looks like there's a verification process.
Right. So we'll talk about that in just a second. So when you click on external, let's go through the process. And so here we see we have an app name, so we can just give it a sample. We're just going to delete this as soon as it's done. And you can kind of see on the right-hand side what it's going to be looking like. And then there's your support email, and we have to upload a logo. So we just need to go find some.
Oh, do we actually need
some random logo? Yep. And just do a little upload there. And then we'll have to start our app so we can get some of our domain things set up. And we're not going to have, it's going to ask us, if you see down below there, a privacy policy in that. We're not going to go ahead and do that. You really need to do that. But for doing just your setup, you're going to be kind of test mode, so we don't have to have all the things going on. So let's go ahead and start our app. Because right now we're just going to set it up on localhost. Mm-hmm. We just need to get the localhost information. So let's get our port
when
number.
we do start, it'll probably fail. Just be aware.
Oh yeah, it will, but it's at least going to give us what our port number is, which is great. So it will, because it's going to give us an error saying that we don't have the things configured.
Don't freak out if there's a big error message.
And actually, maybe we can get the port number just off of our configuration. So
we could, but I already hit play. So
yeah, we're gonna
actually. Well, let's start.
Did it go?
Happen. Yep.
Maybe it didn't start there.
I wonder if it's hitting.
And it may not get far enough to even start the browser. Hopefully,
because it has to hit these up, so it might just.
It may just fail. We'll see.
I mean, it's probably 5001, but.
Yes, I We'll have to see if it chooses. Oh, there you go. Yep. See, it kind of chooses. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So client ID. So it tells us right there, the client, we need a client ID. It's not supplied, but we now have a port number, so we know where we're coming from. So let's go back to the Google and we'll go ahead and just fill those in. Homepage.
Do we need
And
privacy policy?
we're just going to put those in. We do, but we're just going to paste the same things. We're going to say our privacy policy on the main page. Anyway, you need to have pages. Just go ahead and set those up.
This will not pass the verification.
No, it will not, but we're not being verified because we're just going to be private, so it's going to be fine. Now we're going to add a domain. Authorized domains is just our local host. And Meg's going to put in her email address right there and add a domain. And that is just, you have to take the HTTPS off there, because I don't think that part is needed. And you have to take the port number off too.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Must be.
Oh, no, sorry. We don't actually need one of these yet because it's not, I'm sorry. Yeah, we don't need this part. So we're good. When you actually have your real domain, you'll have to go ahead and put that in there.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Okay, so let's do save and continue. And we're going to see if it works. Great. So now we can have scopes. So hit add or remove scopes. And we're going to choose the first two. So the first one is just your email address. And the second one is some additional information, which will give you the things like the icon in the corner. So if you scroll to the bottom, I think we can say update. And this is like, if you're familiar with Azure, the scopes in Azure as well. It's hey, what do I want accessible, especially when you're working with graph and things like that. Those would kind of be the words that you'd see on the Microsoft side. Okay, so there's all the scopes. So we can do save and continue. And then we're going to add test users. So let's go ahead and just add, we can add Meg, you just add your email address. So now we are going to be in this test mode. And so you have to add any email address specifically that you want. Did it get typed wrong? It does check to see if it's a good one. Yes.
Haven't changed that, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. And we'll hit save and continue.
Well, all my dev emails are wrong, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not wrong. Anyways, it's my Outlook.
Yeah, that one actually goes somewhere. But yeah, that's the one that you're going to log into Gmail with, because they could be different.
Okay.
All right, so we have our consent screen all set up. So now we can, again, we're only in test mode, so that's all we can do, but that's fine. Eventually, when you move your app, you move it to production. But now we're going to go back to credentials, and we'll actually go and build our credentials.
Okay,
And now we create credentials, add client ID.
Now we have web
a web application. Yeah, there you go.
And we just name it whatever.
And we can just, web client 1 is fine. So authorized JavaScript origins will be our local host. So you can paste that in there. So where we're coming from. And it doesn't want the slash on the end. And then authorized redirect URL. So this is where we have to put the redirects in. So we can go back to our documentation, look at what that endpoint is, because this will be the Microsoft client stuff. And you see right here in this step right there in the middle, you see that it's whatever your thing is plus sign in -Google. So we can just add that for, because that's effectively what's happening is we are redirecting to the Google site. And then Google is then redirecting back for the login to happen. And then we're redirecting back to the our application, but it has to redirect back to this endpoint called sign in-Google, which is the endpoint that the OAuth middleware creates for us that makes this all work. Okay, we can create.
Hopefully that is on the lower side there.
No, yeah, it is. Last time I did this, it just took a couple of minutes to get. Okay, so here it is. Now, here are all the keys to the kingdom. So we can copy our client ID, and we'll go ahead and paste that in over here. Boom.
Good thing this isn't live, because people are probably.
I know. Yeah, good thing we're recording this ahead of time.
Doesn't matter, actually. Okay. Something secret on here.
So there they are. There's the secrets. And that's really all there is to it. You pop the secrets in. Now let's run it and see what happens.
Should launch. Should at least not complain that these are empty.
Yep. We'll see what happens here.
Okay, so here's our little sign
in
page. Sign in with Google.
And now it's just going to do all the things.
Continue.
And there's your screen that says, hey, do you want to sign in? Your consent screen.
And there's our app.
Perfect.
So I don't have a profile.
Great. If you had a profile picture, you'd see the profile picture up there. I did it the other day and mine popped right in there. So that's really how the Google Auth stuff works. It is very, very basic and straightforward. We'll also show how to do the Microsoft one. It's a similar setup process, but a little bit different. It just uses, you have to go into Azure and do all the things. So
Yeah.
great. Anything else? May, do you want to go with that? Let's go look at that auth code real quick.
Yeah.
Just to kind of give folks an idea of what exactly that takes.
Yep. It would
to
be
get
interesting
going.
to, well, we don't have to go through it. I don't know. It could be interesting. But anyways, yeah, this is so this configure auth happens somewhere in here, right here. So that's where your program.cs has context of what's happening over here. Just so you guys know. And then this is where we kind of set up all that off. So we're adding identity. We're adding our sign-in service, which is this guy here. So that's how it gets context of that guy. And then here you can see the Google Auth being added, and there's our client ID and client secret. So this is where it was failing earlier, because it was saying, hey, this isn't set, like we can't find that. And then this is going.
And here's where you do see the picture that's coming in that claim.
Yep, right there. Yeah, that's about it though.
Yeah, it's pretty basic and straightforward. This is basically just following the
configuring stuff. So then the sign-in service.
Yeah.
So on Google Ticket Received. So if you're you can use Google and you can use Microsoft if you want to.
It's the same basic process, except some slightly different naming.
Yeah, so when we use Microsoft, you'll just see like I think it's on Microsoft Ticket Received or probably something around those lines. But this kind of, we can probably hit this. I might have to pop an incognito window to hit this, but we'll try it. But basically it just comes in, it gets the user. If it's null, then you can't log in. There's probably not a reason that user should be null though if you're logging in with a Google account. Let's see. Go to trigger it.
Yeah, I think you have to log back out and log back in again.
Yeah, well, but okay.
So really what happens here is we're getting all the information that's coming back. So as we get that callback that we talked about, that URL, that's hitting this, it's going in here again to the middleware. So she just went through this screen, we're signing into the app, and now we're doing things. And this is where we get our user from Google, and we can choose to do things with that.
Yeah, and you can see here's some context on the user. So you have kind of the names, you have some claims on them, you get some information. So all that stuff kind of coming in. So that's how you know who it is. And now my user isn't null because we've found my.
We've already created the user.
Yeah. Well, not
not in this case. We have right. We have to have a user.
And then this updates the user profile. So that comes down to a method down here. And all this does is it just goes and grabs the claim for the profile and then it requests it. And the reason that this happens here, and I'm not super sure on Google, but for Microsoft specifically, if you grab the user profile when the user logs in, you're grabbing it kind of as that user, versus if you try and grab it after that user logs in. Like if I've logged in and I'm trying to look at Grant's profile and I want to get his profile picture, if I make that request to Azure to get that profile picture, you need to authorize, like you need to consent for Azure to do that. It's like an additional admin consent screen, which is kind of a barrier for users sometimes.
Yeah, so the idea is that if I want to go out and let's say I put in a username and I want to go get the information from them, that's a different credential or a different permission level than if I just want to give my own. So I can give my own photo away, but I can't necessarily give somebody else's photo without some level of admin consent at the actual organization level.
So the reason we're doing it here is just to avoid any kind of admin consent because it is sometimes a barrier.
So now that we have it, we just want to pull it in and save it.
Yep. So that's all this is doing. And then I think this checks every X number of days. Yeah, right here. So if it's like,
so if you get a new picture, it's going to update your picture.
Yeah. If you get a new picture after a little while, they'll kind of update. So you can always change this if you need it to be different. So that's what that's doing. And then this is going and updating the user sign in. And then this just
and you're going to sign us in.
So pretty straightforward. And then there's obviously this code.
You can see all the pieces are here. So we're either using standard pieces or the code is here in the project. So you can modify that and do whatever you need to make the auth and sign in work the way you want it to.
Yeah, because this is that get or create user. So this is what we kind of go and set up that user. So and then we're signed in. So that's pretty straightforward too.
Great. Now all you need to do is add a picture so we can see that nice stuff. But maybe next time we'll take a look at that. So great. I think that covers it pretty well. Let us know if you have questions in the comments.
Yeah.
And until next time, keep on building some awesome Coalesce apps.
Thanks, guys.